Emily Hiddleston was a 34-year-old marketing executive living in Robert, California. She worked at a big company called Bright Ideas Marketing. Emily was well known at work for her ambitious nature and drive to succeed. She balanced her busy job with a warm and friendly personality, which made her popular among her co-workers and friends. Emily loved outdoor activities, especially hiking and camping. She often took trips to Yoit National Park and Lake Tahoe. She was also a member of a local book club, where she enjoyed discussing her favorite novels by the author Joyce Lehman. Emily's friends described her as kind-hearted and always ready to help others. She had a bright smile that could light up a room. In June 2010, Emily was planning a special camping trip with her family. She and her husband William, along with their 2 children, Maria, age 10, and Brian, age 8, were excited about their upcoming adventure. Emily had already packed their tent, sleeping bags, and food supplies. She had even bought new hiking boots from LLB for the trip. Emily's children were looking forward to roasting marshmallows and telling stories around the campfire. At work, Emily was expecting a big promotion. Her boss had hinted that she might become the new head of the marketing department. This promotion was a dream come true for Emily, who had worked hard for many years. She was excited about the future and looking forward to the new challenges and opportunities it would bring. Emily was deeply connected to her family, with her parents residing nearby in Vacaville and frequently visiting to spend time with their grandchildren. Despite the distance, she maintained a close bond with her sister, also named Emily, who lived in Los Angeles. They kept in regular contact through phone calls and emails. Emily valued these relationships immensely, ensuring she stayed connected with her loved ones. In the days leading up to her death, she was vibrant and excited, looking forward to a camping trip and a potential promotion at work. Her friends and family remember her as a compassionate and caring individual who always prioritized others. On the morning of June 14, 2010, William Hiddleston awoke early, preparing for the day. It was around 7 a.m., and the sun shone brightly in Robert, California. Noticing Emily was not in bed, he assumed she was in the kitchen. Instead, he discovered her lifeless body in the living room. Emily had been brutally beaten with a hairbrush. Her face was bruised, and signs of a struggle were evident. In shock and disbelief, William called 911, his voice trembling, as he relayed the tragic discovery. Emily's unexpected and violent death was a devastating blow to all who knew her. The 911 operator calmly noted the details and dispatched police and emergency services to the Hiddleston home. William sat beside Emily's body, tears streaming down his face as he awaited their arrival, overwhelmed by grief, confusion, and disbelief. Emergency responders arrived swiftly, with paramedics confirming Emily's death while police secured the scene. William, visibly distraught, struggled to answer the officers' questions, repeatedly expressing his love for Emily and his incomprehension of why anyone would harm her. Detectives, noting his distress, were mindful that spouses are often key persons of interest in such cases. Outside, curious neighbors began to gather, drawn by the police activity. News of the tragedy quickly spread throughout the community. Local TV stations like KC3 reported on the incident, highlighting Emily's role as a cherished member of the community. By late morning, the house was bustling with forensic experts meticulously gathering evidence. They dusted for fingerprints, collected samples, and carefully bagged the hairbrush as evidence, documenting every detail with precision. As the day progressed, the grim reality of Emily's death began to sink in for her loved ones. Calls and messages poured in, filled with shock and sorrow. The community was left reeling from the sudden loss of a beloved wife, mother, and friend, struggling to comprehend the senseless tragedy. On June 14, 2010, the Robert police responded swiftly to a 911 call, arriving at the Hiddleston home within minutes. Detectives Rebecca Dixon and Christopher Cox, both seasoned investigators, led the case. Detective Dixon was renowned for her keen observation skills and unwavering commitment, while Detective Cox was known for his meticulous and thorough approach. The scene they encountered was grim. Emily Hiddleston lay lifeless on the living room floor, brutally beaten with a hairbrush found nearby. Blood spattered the carpet, and overturned furniture hinted at a violent struggle. However, the rest of the room was clean, suggesting an attempt to cover up the crime. The detectives secured the area, ensuring the preservation of evidence. They meticulously documented the scene, taking photographs and detailed notes. Forensic experts soon arrived to collect physical evidence, dusting for fingerprints on the hairbrush, furniture, and door handles. They also gathered blood samples and other potential DNA evidence. Detective Dixon spoke with a distraught William Hiddleston, who tearfully recounted the morning's events. He had found Emily's body while preparing for work, completely unaware of who could have committed such a heinous act. Meanwhile, Detective Cox searched the house for signs of forced entry but found none, suggesting Emily may have known her attacker and allowed them inside. Notably, the absence of defensive wounds on Emily's hands indicated she was likely caught off guard. Neighbors began to gather outside, watching the police activity. Some were interviewed by the detectives, but no one reported seeing anything unusual that morning. The community was shocked and scared, as Emily was well liked, and her death was a terrible blow to everyone who knew her. By noon, the detectives had collected all the evidence they could find. They bagged the hairbrush and other items for further analysis at the crime lab. The coroner arrived to take Emily's body for an autopsy, which would provide more details about the time and cause of death. Detective Dixon and Cox spent the rest of the day reviewing the evidence and planning their next steps. They knew they had a difficult case ahead of them, but were determined to find justice for Emily and her family. William Hiddleston, the husband of Emily Hiddleston, was the first suspect in the investigation. William was 37 years old and worked as a software developer. He was known to be intelligent, but also quite introverted, often spending more time with his computer than with people. William was a devoted husband, but in recent months he had become distant and stressed, which friends noticed. The police brought William in for questioning at the Robert Police Department on June 15, 2010. Detective Rebecca Dixon and Detective Christopher Cox led the interrogation. William appeared exhausted and heartbroken, his eyes red from crying, and he seemed genuinely distraught over Emily's death. Detective Dixon started by asking William about his relationship with Emily. William explained that they had been married for 12 years and had 2 children, Maria, aged 10, and Brian, age 8. He admitted that their marriage had been strained lately due to their decision to participate in a wife-swap sex fantasy. William had pushed Emily to participate in this fantasy with another couple, Jennifer and Kevin Chapman. This obsession had caused tension between him and Emily. When asked about the night of Emily's death, William stated that he had been working late on a state government contract for his job at a well-known tech company, TechWave. He said he went to bed around midnight and didn't wake up until the next morning when he found Emily's body. His alibi was weak, since he had been home alone during the time of the murder. Detective Cox asked William about his relationship with Jennifer Chapman. William admitted that he found Jennifer attractive and that they had sex with each other many times, but he insisted that had nothing to do with the murder. He was visibly uncomfortable and kept fidgeting during this part of the questioning. The detectives noted William's stress and anxiety, but also his apparent grief. They asked him about any recent arguments with Emily. William mentioned that they had fought about the wife-swap fantasy and his interest in sexual experimentation a few days before her death. Emily had been upset and told him she didn't want to participate anymore, which had frustrated William. Despite his emotional state, William cooperated fully with the police. He provided access to his phone and computer for further investigation. Detectives Dixon and Cox were cautious, but still considered him a suspect. They needed more evidence to either confirm his involvement or clear him of suspicion. As the questioning concluded, William was allowed to go home, but was instructed not to leave town. The detectives continued to gather information, knowing they had to explore all possible angles in the case to find the truth about who killed Emily Hiddleston. The second suspect in the investigation was Jennifer Chapman, a 32-year-old yoga instructor. Jennifer was outgoing and charismatic, known for her sociable nature. She taught yoga at a popular studio in downtown Robert called Zenflow Yoga. Many people in the community admired her free-spirited attitude and ability to connect with others. Jennifer was part of the wife swap arrangement with Emily and William Hiddleston and her husband, Kevin. She had developed an unhealthy obsession with William and had been trying to convince him to leave Emily for her. Detectives Rebecca Dixon and Christopher Cox brought Jennifer in for questioning on June 16, 2010, at the Robert Police Department. Jennifer arrived wearing casual yoga attire, looking calm and composed. Detective Dixon began by asking Jennifer about her relationship with William. Jennifer openly admitted that she loved sexually experimenting with William and had strong feelings for him. She said she believed William felt the same way, but was torn because of his marriage to Emily. When questioned about the night of Emily's death, Jennifer claimed she was at home with her husband, Kevin. She said they had watched a movie and gone to bed early. However, Detective Cox pointed out that there were no witnesses to confirm her alibi, making it weak. Jennifer then talked about the wife swap arrangement. She explained that it was William's idea and that Emily had reluctantly agreed. Jennifer saw it as a great opportunity to have sex with William. She admitted that she had been trying to convince William to leave Emily, but she denied any involvement in Emily's death. The detectives noticed that while Jennifer was cooperative, she seemed to be hiding something. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the seriousness of the situation. They pressed her about her obsession with William and whether it could have driven her to harm Emily. Jennifer maintained her innocence, insisting she would never hurt anyone. During the interrogation, Jennifer's phone records were examined. They revealed multiple calls and messages to William, including some sent on the night of the murder. This evidence raised further suspicion, as it showed Jennifer's intense interest in William. Despite her cooperation, Jennifer's obsession with William and her weak alibi made her a strong suspect. The detectives knew they needed more concrete evidence to either implicate or exonerate her. They continued to investigate her background, looking for any clues that could link her to Emily's murder. As the questioning ended, Jennifer was allowed to leave but was instructed not to leave town. Detectives Dixon and Cox remained determined to uncover the truth, knowing that Jennifer's possible involvement in the crime needed to be thoroughly explored. On June 18, 2010, 4 days after Emily Hiddleston's tragic death, new evidence emerged that gave the investigation a crucial breakthrough. That morning, it was cloudy and cool in Robert. Detective Rebecca Dixon received a call from a neighbor, Mrs. Evelyn Turner, who lived 2 houses down from the Hiddleston home. Mrs. Turner mentioned she had found something unusual while walking her dog in a nearby park called Lan Park. Mrs. Turner had noticed a discarded bag under a bush near a picnic area. Inside the bag she found a pair of bloody gloves and a smartphone. She immediately called the police, and Detectives Dixon and Cox arrived at the scene within 30 minutes. They carefully collected the bag and its contents, placing them in evidence bags to avoid contamination. Back at the Robert Police Department, the detectives examined the new evidence. The bloody gloves were sent to the crime lab for DNA analysis. The smartphone, which was locked, was taken to the tech department to be unlocked and analyzed. Detective Cox noted the phone was a newer model, an iPhone 4, which had just been released a few weeks earlier. While waiting for the results, the detectives reviewed their notes on the case. The bloody gloves suggested the killer had tried to dispose of evidence far from the crime scene. The smartphone could potentially belong to the killer or someone connected to the crime. Later that afternoon, the crime lab called with the DNA results. The blood on the gloves matched Emily Hiddleston, but there was also another DNA profile on the inside of the gloves. The profile did not match William Hiddleston, which was a significant finding. The tech department also managed to unlock the smartphone. It was registered to Jennifer Chapman, the yoga instructor and second suspect. The detectives found numerous messages and call logs between Jennifer and William. including some from the night of the murder. Additionally, there were messages that showed Jennifer's increasing frustration and jealousy toward Emily. Detectives Dixon and Cox uncovered crucial evidence linking Jennifer to the crime. Messages showed she had tried to manipulate William into leaving Emily, and gloves and a smartphone found with her connected her more directly. With a renewed sense of purpose, the detectives planned to bring Jennifer back in for questioning. The third suspect in the investigation was Kevin Chapman, a 34-year-old personal trainer. Kevin was known for his confidence and charm. He worked at a popular gym in Robert called Fit Life Gym, where he trained clients and participated in competitive sports. Kevin was supportive of his wife Jennifer's free-spirited nature and had participated in the wife swap arrangement with Emily and William Hiddleston. However, Kevin had become increasingly jealous and suspicious. Detectives Rebecca Dixon and Christopher Cox brought Kevin in for questioning on June 19, 2010. Kevin arrived at the Robert Police Department wearing a Fit Life Gym t-shirt and jeans. He appeared nervous but tried to remain composed. Detective Dixon began by asking Kevin about his relationship with Jennifer. Kevin explained that they had been married for 8 years and had a mostly happy marriage. However, he admitted that the wife swap arrangement had caused tension. Kevin confessed that he had become uncomfortable with the arrangement as he was developing feelings for William Hiddleston and felt left out. When asked about the night of Emily's murder, Kevin claimed he was at home with Jennifer. He said they had watched a movie, Iron Man 2, which had been released a few weeks earlier, and went to bed early. Kevin's alibi was the same as Jennifer's, but the detectives were skeptical due to the new evidence linking Jennifer to the crime. Detective Cox questioned Kevin about his feelings toward Emily. Kevin stated that he liked Emily and had no reason to harm her. He seemed genuinely sad about Emily's death and insisted he had nothing to do with it. However, his jealousy and discomfort with the wife swap arrangement were noted by the detectives. The detectives then presented Kevin with the new evidence, the bloody gloves and the smartphone found in Lan Park. Kevin was visibly shocked and denied any knowledge of the items. He insisted that he had no reason to hurt Emily and was being truthful about his whereabouts on the night of the murder. Despite his cooperation, Kevin's weak alibi and growing jealousy made him a suspect. The detectives decided to keep a close eye on him while they continued to investigate Jennifer. They believed that Kevin might have more information about the crime and Jennifer's involvement. As the questioning ended, Kevin was allowed to leave, but was instructed not to leave town. Detectives Dixon and Cox were determined to uncover the full truth, knowing that the evidence was leading them closer to solving the case. On June 20, 2010, the Robert Police made a breakthrough in the Emily Hiddleston case. After carefully examining all the evidence, they identified Jennifer Chapman as the murderer. Jennifer, a 32-year-old yoga instructor, had developed an unhealthy obsession with William Hiddleston, Emily's husband. Jennifer believed that if Emily were out of the picture, William would be with her. The detectives pieced together how Jennifer went about killing Emily. On the night of June 13, 2010, Jennifer had gone to the Hiddleston home. She knew William would be working late and Emily would be alone. Using a hairbrush, she brutally beat Emily, ensuring there was no noise to alert the neighbors. Jennifer then staged the scene to look like a struggle, hoping it would mislead the police. Jennifer's motive was her deep obsession with William and her desire to replace Emily in his life. She thought eliminating Emily would make William choose her. Additionally, she wanted to frame her own husband, Kevin, for the murder, ensuring both her romantic rival and unsatisfactory husband were out of the picture. On June 20th, around 2:00 p.m., Detective Rebecca Dixon and Detective Christopher Cox went to Jennifer's home to arrest her. The sky was overcast, reflecting the somber mood. Jennifer was taken by surprise. She had been teaching a yoga class at Zen Flow Yoga when the detectives arrived. When they informed her of the arrest, Jennifer initially tried to maintain her composure, but soon broke down, crying and pleading her innocence. The police handcuffed Jennifer and escorted her out of the studio. The news spread quickly, and local media, including KC3 and Fox 40, covered the arrest. The community was shocked as they watched Jennifer, a once-admired yoga instructor, being taken away by the police. Emily's family reacted with a mix of relief and sorrow upon hearing of Jennifer's arrest. William Hiddleston was devastated by the betrayal, realizing that someone he knew and trusted was responsible for his wife's death. He struggled to come to terms with the loss and the horrific manner in which it happened. Emily's children, Maria and Brian, were too young to fully understand, but they sensed the gravity of the situation. As Jennifer was taken to the Robert Police Department, the detectives felt a sense of accomplishment. They had successfully identified and apprehended the person responsible for Emily's brutal murder. However, they knew the case was far from over as they prepared for the upcoming trial. The trial of Jennifer Chapman began on September 15, 2010, in the Robert County Courthouse. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Ira Moore, a 45-year-old known for her sharp legal mind and strong courtroom presence, presented a compelling case against Jennifer. Moore argued that Jennifer's obsession with William Hiddleston and her desire to eliminate Emily as a rival drove her to commit the murder. She detailed the evidence, including the bloody gloves and the smartphone found in Land Park, which connected Jennifer to the crime scene. On the defense side, attorney Hubert Owen, a 50-year-old with a reputation for taking on challenging cases, argued that Jennifer was innocent and framed by someone else. Owen claimed that there was no direct evidence linking Jennifer to the murder, and that the police had not thoroughly investigated other potential suspects, including Kevin Chapman. He also suggested that the DNA evidence on the gloves could have been planted. During the trial, Emily Hiddleston family sat in the courtroom, watching with heavy hearts. William Hiddleston, Emily's husband, appeared distraught, often holding back tears. Their children, Maria and Brian, were not present as they were too young to witness the trial's emotional intensity. Friends and community members who knew Emily described her as a loving mother and a dedicated professional, making the crime even more heartbreaking. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On September 25, 2010, they returned with a verdict. Jennifer Chapman was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was filled with a mix of relief and sorrow as the judge announced the verdict. Jennifer showed little emotion, maintaining a stoic expression. Her plan to eliminate Emily and frame Kevin had failed, and she now faced the consequences of her actions. During the sentencing phase, Emily's family members gave emotional statements. William spoke about the devastating impact of losing Emily and how it had affected their children. The judge sentenced Jennifer Chapman to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was seen as just by Emily's family, but it could never fully heal the pain of their loss. The verdict and sentencing had a profound effect on everyone involved. Emily's family felt a sense of closure, knowing that justice had been served. The community, shocked by the crime, began to heal, though the memory of Emily's tragic death lingered. Jennifer's conviction sent a message that such a calculated and violent act would not go unpunished. As the trial concluded, those who knew Emily hoped to remember her for the vibrant and loving person she was, rather than the brutal way she was taken from them. After the trial, life slowly began to move on for everyone involved in the case. William Hiddleston, now a single father, focused on caring for his children, Maria and Brian. He decided to move out of their Robert home, seeking a fresh start. They relocated to a smaller town nearby, where they could begin healing away from the painful memories. William took a leave of absence from his job at TechWave to spend more time with his children. He enrolled them in a new school and joined a support group for grieving spouses, finding solace in talking to others who had experienced similar losses. He also sought therapy for both himself and his children to help them cope with the trauma of losing Emily. Jennifer Chapman, now serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole, was transferred to the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. In prison, she became isolated, with few visitors and little contact with the outside world. Her obsession with William and her misguided actions had led her to a life behind bars, far from the free-spirited yoga instructor she once was. Kevin Chapman, Jennifer's husband, struggled to rebuild his life. He left Robert and moved to San Francisco, where he found a new job as a personal trainer at a different gym. He sought counseling to deal with his feelings of betrayal and confusion. Kevin tried to move forward, but remained deeply affected by the events and the realization that his wife was capable of such violence. In the years following the trial, those touched by Emily's life and tragic death worked to find peace and healing. While the pain of her loss remained, they found ways to move forward, carrying Emily's memory with them and striving to live their lives with the same warmth and determination she had shown. The tragic case highlighted in the video teaches the importance of awareness and vigilance in relationships. It serves as a reminder that jealousy and manipulation can lead to devastating outcomes. The case underscores the need for open communication and trust with loved ones. Additionally, it emphasizes the significance of thorough investigative work by law enforcement, as meticulous evidence gathering can be crucial in achieving justice and uncovering the truth. Thank you for joining us on this episode of True Crime.